to go over those things because, you know, the things were sort of pertinent things regarding probably the most elevated of all of the Bhajan parities that we have in the form of the Shikshashtakam of Mahaprabhu. I mentioned last week that there were many Bhajan parities that have been written from the time of Mahaprabhu. So a Bhajan parity is a book of methodology regarding how to perform bhajan, especially for those who aspire to serve in Braj or to serve Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan. Then the particular method for that is called Raga Anuga Bhakti. So I mentioned last week that Southern Bhakti can be of two kinds. One is Vaidhi Bhakti. So Vaidhi Bhakti means the adherence to the rules and regulations with the aim and objective of obtaining service to Lord Narayan or any other Narayan avatar in Vaikuntha. By the practice of Vaidhi Bhakti, it's clearly mentioned in Chaitanya Charitamrita, Sakale Jagate More Vaidhi Bhakti, Vaidhi Bhakti Brajabhav, Paiti Nahi Shakti. There's no possibility to obtain the moods of service that are present in Vrindavan by this practice of Vaidhi Bhakti. So what does that mean for us? Because is it that we follow no rules and regulations? So it certainly doesn't mean that. Actually, in Shastra, it's also stated, even for those who follow the path of Rag Marg, I'll explain Rag Marg in a minute, still, Shravanam Kirtanandani, Vaidhi Bhaktis Udantis tu. It means they also are following rules and regulations. So for instance, Srila Rupa Goswami in Nectar of Devotion or Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, he wrote 64 different angas of practice, beginning with Guru Padasraya, Tita Diksha Shikshari, Vishrambena Guru Seva, Sadhu Vatmanu Vatmanam. So like this, he's written out 64 different angas for the practice of bhakti. And whether you follow Rag Marg or Vaidhi Marg, those things are still applicable. And I also gave the example that just as two students go to university, so of course, I don't even know if it's still a thing in universities now, but when I went to college, you had the option to take liberal arts. So liberal arts was just a more or less a generic academic program that you could take up if you did not have a particular goal in mind for a career or whatever the case might be. So, but you could also look forward to a specialization in a particular career, like medicine or law, engineering, whatever it might be. Still, both the engineering, law, medical student and the student taking liberal arts will still have to take prerequisites. So you have to satisfy those in order to move into your major. So you have to take English, math, basic sciences, mathematics, etc. So for those two students, one has the idea, well, I'm generically just practicing, right? And the other one has the intensity to obtain a particular goal, like becoming a doctor, lawyer, engineer, as I mentioned. So though they're both in the prerequisites class, their aim and objectives are different. In the same way, two people can be practicing the path of following the rules and regulations of Shastra. But if you have the intense desire to obtain the service of Radha and Krishna in Vrindavan, this will not be called technically Vaidhi Bhakti. It will be called Rag Anuga Pravritti. So the word Rag Anuga, first the word Rag means Isti Swarasika Raga Paramaveshtata Bhavet. It means an absolute unquenchable absorption in the object of worship. Right? This is the meaning of the word Rag. The word Anuga means, Anu means to follow. Anuga means the Ga means gaman. So it means to follow a path or to follow the footsteps of someone who is Rag Atmik. Rag Atmik means in their essential nature, their mood is composed intrinsically of this deep, unquenchable thirst to serve Krishna in parental love, conjugal love, fraternal love, etc. You understand? So they're called Rag Atmik. It means in their very nature, their atma is composed of this mood to serve Krishna in a particular way. To follow in their footsteps with that aspiration for one of those moods is called Rag Anuga. So on the path of Rag Anuga, many Bhajan padatis or methodology books were written to help guide the aspirant how to perform this Raganuga Bhakti. Some of the most prominent ones are Rag Vatma Chandrika of Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur, Prem Bhakta Chandrika of Narottam Das Thakur. One more obscure is Manjari Sarup Nirupana. Also, more prominent and pertinent in our line is Manasiksha and Upadeshamrita. Upadeshamrita is written by Rupa Goswami. Manasiksha is written by Raghunath Das Goswami. So both are methodology books. But particularly for Ragmag, Manasiksha is called the Antarapant. It is the internal mood or the internal adjustments to be made to practice Raganuga Bhakti.
Good morning, Mom.
Then, somebody's got to mute out. Then there's a very prominent padati, which is very famous among all practitioners. It is called the Gaura Govind Archan Smaran Padati. Okay, Gaura Govind Archan Smaran Padati. It's a much more voluminous book than the smaller books like Upadeshamrita. Nectar of Instruction is only 11 verses. Manasiksha is only 12 verses, right? And we see that Srimad Mahaprabhu is writing a padati composed of only 8 verses. But the Gaura Govind Archan Smaran Padati is a really pretty voluminous book. And it goes into great detail about the external things that you do in your practice. So it's called the Bahya Pant. Bahya means the external path, right? Of course, you have to have internal adjustment, right? So it's not void of internal mood, but it's just here. You have to say this mantra this time of day to this person, followed by the etc. So it's the external direct manual for how to execute the practice of Raganuga Bhakti. That was written by Dhyana Chandra Goswami under the guidance of Gopal Guru Goswami. Gopal Guru Goswami was a disciple of Akeshwara Pandit, a very famous associate of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So it's coming down in that line. Srimad Mahaprabhu also wrote a Bhajan Padati. It is called Shikshashtakam. The entire Padati is based around Harinam. So in other words, he's affirming that the most essential part of Bhajan practice is Naam Kirtan. Tara Madhya Savasreshta Naam Kirtan. The most auspicious, most powerful thing amongst all the different angas of bhakti is Naam Kirtan. Why? Because Naam is directly Radha and Krishna themselves. So to develop absorption in their service would most logically be accomplished by realizing them in their sound form of the name. So he wrote an entire padati dedicated to doing bhajan based on Harinam. When Mahaprabhu first wrote the padati, it was during the time of his Leela prior to his entering into the state of his own absorption. I mentioned last week in the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, it gives essentially 2 reasons for the descent of Mahaprabhu. Prema Rasa Niyas Karite Ashwadan. So this word Prem Rasa Niyas Karite Ashwadan means to taste. So to taste, Prem Rasa Niyas. Prem Rasa Niyas means the mood of Srimati Radharani. During Krishna Leela, Krishna observed the love of Radhika in action. The nature of Radhika's love is so enchanting, so amazing, even to Krishna himself, he has a desire to experience it. Now, I also explained last week that if any person is the object of another person's love, that person who's the object can't have the feelings of the person who's the subject or the repository of that love for them. Like any husband and wife, the husband loves the wife can't feel what the husband is feeling. You understand? The wife has her feelings of love towards the husband. And the husband similarly cannot understand what the wife is feeling. That's the nature of what creates rasa. These 2 unique positions. In Sanskrit, between Radha and Krishna, they're called asraya. it means the repository of love, and Vishaya, or the object of love. So, Krishna, observing the nature of Radhika's love, the pinnacle of Radhika's love, it is called Madanakya Mahabhav. It has so many charming qualities and has such power. But Krishna himself, being the object of that, can't know what that experience is. But he has great desire to know. So then Krishna says, Purva Vrajvilasi 18 Abhilas. Even after the completion of the Brajalila here, he had 3 desires. What are those 3 desires? Shri Radha Pranaya Mahima Kidraso Vanyeva. What? Mahima means glory. What is the glory of this love that Radhika has? Swadjena Adbhutim Swadjena Adbhuta Madhurima Kidraso Mvamadiya. What? My 4 kinds of special sweetness. Krishna has 4 qualities that are unique, even among the forms of God. His flute playing, his incredible beauty of his form, his loving pastimes, and his devotees. How does Radharani taste those things that gives her such extreme happiness even beyond mine? This was Krishna's question. Then Shokyam Chasha Kidrasam Veti Lobat. So he had, lob means agreed to taste that kind of happiness that's present in Radharani. In order to do that, he takes shelter of the love itself. In other words, he takes shelter of that love to try to taste it. So many leelas are there of Krishna begging Radharani, please give me your mood, and so forth. And Radharani saying, there are many things about my mood, especially the parts of separation that are very difficult to bear. So Radhika is very reluctant to give Krishna a mood. So then it explains, once while Radhika was in a deep mood of separation called Bhavan Milan. Bhavan Milan is when one witnesses their beloved leaving. Like there's 3 things, Bhavi Milan, Bhavan Milan, and Bhut Milan. So Bhavi Milan means, let's say your loved one is going to be traveling. They're not traveled yet, but they're going to be traveling. So the inner intensity of separation hasn't fully taken place yet, but the initial stages are there. Because in 2 weeks, they're going to be leaving for a 2-year work somewhere else. So you start to miss them already. This is called Bhavi Milan. Bhut Milan means after they've arrived at that place, and now you're communicating by letters and so forth and so on, the kind of separation you feel in their absence. But the most intense form of separation is when you drive them to the airport. Every mile, when you pull up to the gate to park, then you get out, you walk them, and they're walking past security, which you can't go, right? And you're waving. So that's called Bhavan Milan, the intensity of the feelings at that time. So when Radhika saw Krishna being taken on the chariot of Akrur to go to Mathura, she experienced a mood called Bhavan Milan. In that state, her heart is completely melted in the fullest degree. It was at that time that Krishna, in an unmanifest form, enters the heart of Radhika and becomes absorbed in that mood. That later, after the Leela of Krishna is completed, plays out as a transformation of the essence of Radhika's love, which is called Aladini Shakti. Right? Ladini Sara Prem, Prem Sara Bhav, Bhav Paramakasta Naam, Mahabhav, Mahabhav Swarupini, Shri Radha Thakarani. So Radhika and her love is composed of Ladini Shakti, the power to make Krishna happy. Understand? So here he's saying that Sri Radha Pranaya Vikriti. Vikriti means transforming. That love transformed in such a way, Sri Radha Pranaya Vikriti Ladini Shakti Asmat, it became the cause of Radha and Krishna taking one form as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Is there anybody who didn't understand? Some things you'll digest, but basically, is everybody following the chain of thought? Good. Now, once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu made his appearance, he not only wanted to taste the love of Radhika, Prema Rasniyas Karite Ashradan, but Rag Marg Bhakti Loke Karite Prachar. He also wanted to distribute this mood. It's just like if somebody in mundane sense, hits the lottery. You become very generous-hearted at that time. Well, maybe. But people generally become very magnanimous and very generous at that time. So you reach out to your family members, dear ones, everything else, and you also try to endow them with some of the winnings and so forth, so on. So when Krishna was realizing the nature of the experience to taste Radhika's love, he wanted to distribute the path by which one can obtain service to that love, right? Anarpita chirim chirat karunavatiya kalo sumutpayatam unata ujwalarasa swabhakti sriyam. This verse also comes in the Adi Leela of Chaitanya Charitamrita, chapter 1. Here he's saying, for a long time, I've not distributed love on the level of how the gopis are serving Krishna, especially Srimati Radharani. So now I'm going to distribute that love, and a special feature of that is Unata Ujjala Rasa, which is the love itself, Swabhakti Sriyam. I will distribute the nature of the service to that love. That is called Radha Dasyam or Manjari Bhav. So this was the unique thing that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings. So he gives the path of Rag Marg. Why? Because he's Rasik Shekara and Paramakarun. Rasik Shekara means he has the intrinsic nature of tasting rasa. So now he's saying Rasik Shekara. Shekara means like the king, the crown jewel of Rasik person. So he's tasting the highest kind of rasa, which is the love of Radhika, and he's Paramakarun. He's the most merciful. Why? Because Radhika is also present there. It's Radha and Krishna combined. Karunam kurumai karunam varite saraka sanatan varnita charite. One bhajan that we sing says Radhika is the most merciful, and she's glorified by so many sages as being so. So now Radha and Krishna in one form, the complete form of mercy is there. So two things happen because of that. One is that because of that extreme mercy and that extreme sense of good fortune, one becomes compassionate to others and has a desire to distribute the wealth of what they've obtained. So I gave the lottery example. So that same thing is now applying in the form of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. All of the devotees from the previous incarnations, like Hanuman in Ram Leela, Jai and Vijay, the original gatekeepers of Vrindavan, the 5 Pandavas, Prahlad Maharaj, even Lord Brahma, Uddhava, they all are brought into this Gaur Leela, and they're given separate swarup of bodies in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, so that in the kirtan that takes place in the house of Srivas, they can have a taste of the highest Leela of Krishna, which is called the Ras Leela. So the kirtan in the house of Srivas is the Audodya form, means the magnificent form of the Ras Leela. Ras Leela is very exclusive. Only gopis can enter there, you understand? And in some Rasa Leelas, because Rasa Leela is performed in different places, only Radhika's own party can enter. Not even other gopis can enter. You understand? But now that highest pastime becomes, or Dodja becomes magnificent or merciful and expands, and it's accommodating now all the devotees from the previous incarnations. Understand? Uddhava becomes Paramananda Puri. Hanuman becomes Murari Gupta. The 5 Pandavas, they become the sons of Bhavananda Roy. Jai and Vijay become Jagai and Madai, and they eventually get praying from Nityananda Prabhu. So all the devotees, millions of devotees from previous incarnations come and they receive this mercy. So he's Rasik Shekar and Paramakarun. So during the early part of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's Leela, he first acted to give pleasure, especially to Mother Sachi and Jagannath Misra and the Navadvip Vasis. Navadvip Vasis mean the residents of Navadvip Dham. In doing so, he also later on enjoyed scholastic pastimes, where he acted as a scholar. After the passing of Jagannath Misra, he went to Gaya to perform the last rites for Jagannath Misra. At that time, Ishvara Puripad, who had earlier seen Chaitanya Mahaprabhu in Navadvip when he visited Advaitacharya, gave him initiation into the holy name and the Das Akshara mantra, means the Gopal mantra. You understand? And let me see. Yes, wait, give me 1 second here. Yes, it's correct. So he gave him Harinam and this mantra, right? So now the mature form of that Gopal mantra, the realization gleaned from the Gopal mantra, is the Astadakshara mantra, Astadasa Akshara mantra, which is Kam Gayatri. So these mantras were there with Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Now Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's whole personality had changed. When he came back to Navadvip Dham, he was absorbed in Harinam and tasting the inner realities of it via those mantras. So he was teaching Sanskrit in Navadvip, but now he told all of his students, I no longer can adequately teach you about this. Even when he tried to teach the students in the beginning, he taught everything related to Krishna. So the little Brahmin boys, they were thinking, well, everything you explain is only Krishna. You understand? Said, this is my nature now. I can't do anything else. So now being absorbed in this way, Mahaprabhu spent the next years up to his 24th year associating with the Brijabasis in this deep mood of absorption in tasting Sri Nam and the realization of those mantras. At a certain point, the organic detachment and the desire for absorption in Krishna Seva became so overwhelming that even though he had promised Mother Sachi that he would never take sannyas, Mahaprabhu took sannyas from Keshava Bharti in Katwa. So this is all described in the, what is this book? Bhakti Ratnakar in detail. Now, having taken sannyas, he came back once to Shantipur. And at that time, he made a promise to Mother Sachi that he would reside in Jagannath Puri because it was nearby to Navadvip. Not super close, but it was nearby. So he wouldn't go to a far place and so forth and so on, but he would stay nearby where messages could go back and forth. Being absorbed at that time after taking sannyas, Mahaprabhu, for 12 years, he began to travel and to preach the glories of bhakti throughout South India, North India. Mahaprabhu would go to Vrindavan. But then when he was going to go to South India, he had a conversation with Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya. Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya is an incarnation of Brihaspati. And Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya thought that Mahaprabhu was a young sannyasi and tried to teach him Vedanta. Sriman Mahaprabhu listened for 7 days to Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya speak, but he didn't give any replies. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya asked him, well, are you understanding anything? Are you grasping what I'm saying? And then Mahaprabhu said, yeah, I completely understand the verses, but your explanations I'm not catching. So then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya said, how is it possible you can understand the meaning of the verses, but not the explanations of the verses? So then Mahaprabhu began to speak to him and completely gave him realization of where his flaws was based on Mayavad philosophy, etc., and taught him the actual meaning of all Vedanta and everything. After this, Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya became completely dedicated and surrendered to Mahaprabhu. So when Mahaprabhu was going to travel to South India, he told them, listen, you can remember that when you fainted, when you first arrived in Puri, Mahaprabhu went into the Jagannath temple, taking darshan of the deity of Jagannath, and he saw the form only of Jagannath. He did not even see Baladev and Subhadra. He only saw the form of Jagannath because he was absorbed in the mood of Radharani. He fainted, right? Saita Payanath, what is this? Saita Prananath Payinu, Dahane, Dahamon, what is this? Dahane, Girijanu. When I saw eye to eye Lord Jagannath, immediately I thought, here is my Prananath, from whom I've been separated, my beloved, for whom I've been burning in the fire of separation. And Mahaprabhu fainted. So the Jagannath temple priest thought, oh, this is like a madman or something. So they got ready to just kick him out of the temple. But then Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya came there at the request of people telling him what was happening. So Sarvabhauma Bhattacharya took a piece of cotton and he put it under the nose of Mahaprabhu so he could tell that he was still breathing. So then he was completely amazed. So he took Chaitanya Mahaprabhu back to his house, and that's where the discussion took place. But now, after his realization, when Mahaprabhu was going to travel to South India, he said, you must meet Ramananda Roy. Ramananda Roy was a provincial governor on behalf of the Nawab. Excuse me, not Nawab, but on behalf of Maharaj Prataparudra, right, who was the ruler of Orissa. He said, you must meet him. Actually, I can understand now that when you fainted in the Jagannath temple, you were experiencing ecstatic symptoms due to loss. I learned about this from Ramananda Roy, but I thought at the time he's not really a Vedantic scholar, he's more of a sentimentalist. But now, having heard from you and realized the truth, I can now understand the glory of Ramananda Roy. So you must meet him. So when Mahaprabhu traveled to South India, he met Ramananda Roy, and they met on the bank of the Godavari, and that comprises the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila of Chaitanya Charitamrita. It's a must read. All the discussions that took place between Ramananda Roy and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, up to the highest level of Prem, which is called Prem Vilas Vivat. In this Prem Vilas Vivat, it indicates the reversal of roles of the lover and the beloved. It's a very high class of subject matter. So he told, to make a long story short, he told Ramananda Roy, listen, you should give up everything and come to live with me in Puri. I cannot bear to be without your association. So, of course, Ramananda Roy would follow through with that, and Maharaj Prataparudra, being such a great supporter of Vaishnavas and also a great devotee of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he granted full pension to Ramananda Roy, and Ramananda Roy comes to Puri. While Ramananda Roy and Swarup Damodar in Puri, they are associating with Mahaprabhu and nourishing his mood to taste the mood that he came to taste, which was Srimati Radharani's mood. Once Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sent another close associate named Jagannananda Pandit back to Navadvip to take a message about his well-being and to distribute Jagannath Prasad to the devotees there in Bengal. So while he was there, Jagannananda Pandit met with Mother Sachi and met with many devotees. And as he was about to leave to return to Jagannath Puri, then he was stopped by Advaitacharya. And Advaitacharya said, I have a message from Mahaprabhu. I want you to tell him. So Jagannananda Pandit said, yes, of course. So then Advaitacharya recited a sonnet. Bahulaka lokiha lokaha ilabal bahulaka kaya hate na vikaya chal. Bahulaka kaya kai nahi ko aul bahulaka kaya iha kayache baul. So the word aul and baul means those who become mad due to inner spiritual absorption. Later on, people would imitate this mood, and therefore Aul and Baal became part of the 13 Apasampradayas or Sahajas. But the original meaning of the word is those who became mad due to absorption. So the meaning of the sonnet is that Advaitacharya, who called Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to descend to this world, was telling him, listen, now the mission for which you have come is completed. Everyone here in Bengal has become absorbed in love of God. Therefore, hate nahi ko chao. That chao means rice. Therefore, there's no need to keep the market open. He was comparing the distribution of Harinam and the distribution of Prema Bhakti to a marketplace. And he said, now the marketplace, no need for it to stay, because all of the residents are completely full. There's no more need of any more rice. You understand? So now he tells them also, all of the business, meaning material business that was being done, is no longer being done. Therefore, from one madman to another, I'm telling you there's no more need for you to continue your mission. This was the inner meaning of this sonnet. Jagannananda Pandit, he did not really know this meaning. But he went back and he told the sonnet as he was ordered by Advaitacharya. While Mahaprabhu heard the sonnet, Swarup Damodar was nearby, as well as other devotees. No one could understand the meaning of this sonnet. Only Mahaprabhu caught the meaning. Swarup Damodar, by the mood of Mahaprabhu, could understand the insignificance of something taking place. So he asked Mahaprabhu, listen, what is this strange poetry of Advaita Acharya? We know he's also a very elevated soul. So can you please explain the meaning? And Mahaprabhu told Swarup Damodar, listen, Advaita Acharya is, as you said, a very mysterious person. But you should understand that whenever there is a yajna, then the priest calls for the descent of the deity. Like if anybody's ever seen a fire sacrifice done, you know one of the things you have to do is establish what's called a Shripad. Shripad is like a copper container, sometimes stainless steel, and it has auspicious marks on it. And then you put mango leaves inside and you put a coconut, which is also marked with auspicious symbols. That pot is then worshipped and the deity is called to enter into that, to be there as a witness to the fire sacrifice. So he was saying Advaita Acharya is the ultimate priest. He called for the deity, meaning himself, to come here. And now he's telling the deity can go, because after the end of a fire sacrifice, you have to recite the appropriate mantras to tell the deity to leave the coconut and everything. Understand? So now he's saying, now he's telling the deity to leave. From that day going forward, Mahaprabhu entered into the last 12 years of his Leela in absorption of strictly tasting the inner mood that he came to taste of Srimati Radharani. No more distribution of everything, strictly absorbed in tasting this mood. The way he used to taste this mood was from the poetry of Chandidas, Vidyapati, Jayadev Goswami, who wrote Geet Govinda, and also the poetry of Ramananda Roy, Jagannath Vallabhanatakam. So they used to sing these poems and songs to him, and Mahaprabhu would relish the different moods of Srimati Radhika in a place called the Gambhira. Gambhira was a room in the house of the priest of Maharaj Prataparudra. His name was Kaisheshwara Pandit. So he gave Mahaprabhu a room there. It's a very small room, but he gave Mahaprabhu that room, and Swarup Damodar, Roy Ramananda, and his personal servant Govinda used to only go in that room. Because in that room, Mahaprabhu was tasting the moods of Radhika as she was during the Bhavan Milan, means the intense separation of watching Krishna being taken on the chariot by a Krur at Uddhav Kyari. The Gambhira was Mahaprabhu tasting that mood. You understand? So Mahaprabhu was tasting the highest mood of Radhika at Uddhav Kyari after Akrura was taking him on the chariot. Mahaprabhu became absorbed in that mood. Among the different things which were stimulating Mahaprabhu's mood is a Bhajan Parati that he himself wrote, which was called Shikshashtakam. So that is the history of Shikshashtakam. He wrote the Shikshashtakam earlier while he was traveling preaching. He wrote the Shikshashtakam for people to understand how to obtain the path of Raganuga Bhakti and the ultimate goal of Radha and Krishna Seva through the chanting of Harinam. But now, as he was reciting his own verses to Swarup Damodar and Roy Ramananda, he was tasting them as the moods of Radhika. So there are two explanations for these verses. I'm going to focus mainly on the verses applicable to our growth in the practice. You understand? Maybe I'll touch something on some of the verses of the inner meanings, just so you get an understanding of the flavor of Mahaprabhu's tasting these things while he's in the Gambhira. So in the very first verse, Mahaprabhu writes, Chaito darpanamajanam bhavamahadavagni nivapanam Chaito darpan marjanam. He's saying that the consciousness, the chitta, it is like a mirror. And just like a mirror can reflect whatever's put in front of it, the chitta of any jiva reflects the influence of either material energy or spiritual energy. When the heart is not clean, Bhava Maha means with the influence of material energy or the material paradigm, then Bhava Maha Davagni Nivapanam, or Davagni. Davagni means like a forest fire. So he's saying when the jiva's chitta or consciousness is influenced by the material energy, then it causes great suffering, just like being entrapped in a forest fire. But nivapanam, this is all extinguished. So to put it in context, you have to go to the last line first. Savatma snapanam param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtan. How is it extinguished? By this param vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam. I'll give another explanation when we come to that line. But it's essentially saying by this Harinam Kirtan, that fire of material existence, which is reflected on the chitta of the jiva, is cleared away completely. Once it is cleared away completely, Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam Vijavadu Jivanam, then the chitta of the jiva becomes a suitable place for the descent of the spiritual energy called Swarup Shakti. What is this Swarup Shakti? Suddha Sattva Visesh Atma Prem Surya Anksa Samyabak Ruchi Bis Chitta Maslanya Kriyaso Babuchite. This Swarup Shakti is composed of Sandini, the spiritual foundational substance, Samvit, spiritual cognition, and Aladini, the bliss that comes from that spiritual cognition in relation to Krishna or Radha Krishna. So when a ray of the sun of that Swarup Shakti or Prema descends to this world onto the chitta of the jiva, it causes the good fortune of the lotus of the heart to blossom. This is such an excellent poetry describing what happens as we advance in bhakti. As we do our practice with intention and with meaning under the guidance of Guru, then the heart opens up just like a lotus. But it says here, it's opening up Chandrika. Chandrika means the moon. There are sun-blooming lotuses and moon-blooming lotuses. But by indicating the moon, it indicates Rasa. You understand? The sun indicates Gyan, knowledge, but the moon indicates Rasa. Even scientifically, the flavor that comes in vegetables and other fruits, it doesn't come from the sun. Sun makes them grow, but it comes from the infusion of moon rays. So here it's saying by the influence of the sweetness of the Rasa, inherent in praying, the good fortune of the lotus of the heart of the jiva begins to blossom in Bhav. It explains that Shreya Kairava Chandrika Vitaranam. Vitaranam means to blossom. Vidya Vadu. So Vidya here means Samvit Shakti. One of the three elements of the spiritual internal energy or Swarup Shakti is called Samvit Shakti. So the Vidya means the consciousness or awareness. Who am I? Who is Krishna? And what is our relationship? This is what is meant by Samvit Shakti. This is what is meant by the word Vidya here. But then it says, Bhadu Jivanam. In Sanskrit, the word Bhadu means a wife. So it's saying here, poetically, the wife or the inseparable companion of this realization of Krishna is the happiness that comes from that realization, or Ladini Shakti. Understand? The very life of this knowledge. Gyan itself is not a big thing. Knowledge is not the big thing. But knowledge of relationship to Krishna, which produces love for him, or Ladini, that's what's prominent. Haribo Ganga. Is that Janavi?
That's Janavi's daughter. That's my granddaughter.
Oh, boy, they look.
They do. Oh. They remember a lot.
All right, because I was getting ready to get on her and tell her to sit down and listen there. All right. So this Vadu Jivana means the very life of this Vidya Shakti, Samvit Shakti, is Ladini Shakti. So it's describing the descent of Samvit and Ladini or Swarup Shakti. Understand? Then Anandam Buddhivadanam Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam. So Ananda means bliss. Anandam Buddhi means the ocean of bliss. So if you give poetry that says, one, after obtaining Bhav, enters into Prema after they give up this body, because this body cannot be a container for Prema. The spiritual emotions that are in Prema are not digestible by the physical body. Therefore, you have to have a suitable container. The suitable container is a spiritual body itself. So in this body, we can only go up to the stage of Bhav. So now Mahaprabhu is describing, but having given up this body and obtained a body composed of spiritual substance, it is called Vastu Siddhi. Then Anandam Buddhivadanam, the ocean of love, Pratipadam, at every step, Purna becomes more complete. If there's an ocean and it's complete, how it can become more complete? So he's describing that love itself is ever expanding. And the bliss derived from the ever expanding love is also ever expanding. So Anandam Buddhivadanam, Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam. So he says Pratipadam. What does Pratipadam mean? Once you obtain the stage of Prema in your Vastu Siddhi body, that Prema will begin to grow in incremental stages called Sneha. I'm not going to describe each stage here. That may be another class. It's written in the book Ujjwala Nilamani by Sri Rupa Goswami. He gives all the descriptions of the different stages of Prema up to the highest Prema of Radhika Madhanakya Mahabhav. The first thing is called Sneha. Then comes Pranay, then Man, then Rag, then Anurag. Anurag is its own developed feature. Then Anurag turns into Mahabhav. This Mahabhav has two divisions, Rudha Mahabhav and Adirudh Mahabhav. In the Adirudh Mahabhav, there's also two divisions, Modan, when there's meeting, and Mohan, when there's separation, and ultimately and exclusively only in Radhika is Madan Bhav. So maybe one day I'll give a full explanation of all of these different stages to make the class more fruitful. Maybe just briefly, I'll try to go through them. Sneha means when love increases to the point where the love illuminates itself further and causes a further melting of the heart. Just like in the first verse, when you get Bhav, it says, Ruchi bis chittamasrinya. Ruchi means the particular taste of loving service you have towards Krishna. When you obtain Prema, that Ruchi becomes more fully melted and reveals a spiritual body. Now it's saying in the stage of Sneha, Aruya Paramakasta Chit Deepa Deepana Hridayam Dravyatam. It says the heart becomes further melted. Chit Deepa Deepana. The word deep means a light, like the ghee wick. So if you have one ghee wick, it provides illumination. If you add another ghee wick to it, it doubles the illumination. So now it's saying Prema increases even more. When Prema increases more, it opens the doorway that the love can now take different kinds of divergent turns. So this leads to Man. And what is this verse? Ahi Premana Goti Swabhava Kutila Bhavet Hetu Ahetuscha Manam Yunam Udanchati. It's describing what is Man. Sometimes Hetu with a cause, Ahetu without a cause. Sometimes the love takes crooked dealings. This makes the love taste sweeter. Then Pranay. Pranaya Shasya. Visrambena Katita Buddhi. The learned say that this word pranaya means visramba. Visramba means when all barriers between the lover and the beloved are removed. You understand? Therefore, the lover and the beloved consider themselves like one body. You understand? Just like, one example is there. Radhika, she was dancing in Ras Leela. And when Radhika had some perspiration on her forehead, she took Krishna's pitambar and just grabbed it and started wiping the perspiration. You understand? She feels so close. She feels like there's nothing that's yours and mine. Everything is ours in the absorption of this stage. Understand? Because normally it would be an etiquette that you wouldn't do such a thing. Just like in the mundane world, if you're going on a first date with somebody and someone took your sweater or your cloth, your shawl or whatever, and start wiping their face with the sweat on it, that would probably be the last date. You understand? Even if you didn't say anything, that's probably the last date, right? So, but Visramba means when things change. So now, just like, for instance, to make it more personal, this shawl used to belong to my wife. Somebody gave it to her, but I've always liked it because it's the right size, the right fit, and everything else. So I've worn it so much to the eventuality that now what's hers is mine. You understand? And she's making comments on this in the background. Anyway, so this is what is Vishramba. This is the stage of Pranay. Pranay leads to Rag. Rag means the stage in which even unhappiness becomes happiness. Dukkamarikam chitte shukkat ena evarajayate. When even something that would cause happiness, because of its relationship to the beloved, it permeates it with happiness. Example is given by Rupa Goswami that Srimati Radhika, to watch Krishna take the cows out for grazing and to watch him return, she would sometimes stand on the hill of Govardhan, barefoot. You understand? And standing barefoot, very sharp stones are there, the heat of the sun making them even more sharp and painful. But just the prospect of seeing Krishna, she would feel no pain. You understand? So, Rag, Anurag. Anurag means when love becomes so powerful, it takes over and becomes the controlling element of the lover and the beloved. So Anurag Swasambeja Dasya Prapya Prakasita Yavat Asrayas Vritti Bhavaschet. So here it's saying that there are three features to this Anurag. One is that Anurag Swasambeja Dasya. It becomes the recognition of itself by itself. In other words, it sees the nature of love emanating from the heart of Radha and Krishna. It becomes its own entity, recognizing that, and uses itself to create further enhancement of the Leela of Radha and Krishna. Also, Prapya Prakasita, it takes shelter in their bodies and externally manifests these symptoms like hair standing on end, choking of the voice, change of bali, the Astasattvic Vikar. You understand? So this is happening by the influence of Anurag, taking shelter in the bodies of the lover and beloved and manifesting. Here's the trick. This is why this is deep. Because one of the hallmark qualities of Madhurya Rasa, or conjugal love, is Pracharamukata. It should be kept deeply hidden. But now love takes over, and it's just like I'm giving an example in the mundane world again. If any two people in their intimacy, whatever, and if there's any under 18ers here, then close your ears, right? So they in their dealings of affection, they may create what are the things used to be called? What is Haribo? Somebody put something on your mark on your neck. What's it called? Hickey. Why is the hickey? Okay. So what do you do if that happens? Because you don't want to go to work with that thing. Yes, everybody takes a turtleneck shirt or something else to cover it. You understand? So, but love is saying no. Love is looking at the Prem China. Prem China means the marks of love, and allowing it to be exposed on the body of Radha and Krishna. You understand? Prapya Prakashita. It illuminates the nature of their love on their bodies by exposing their love for each other in the form of the Astasattvic Vikar. Then, Yavat Ashray Vittis Bhavchet. This bhav, it has the power to come out of the heart of Radharani and enter into the hearts vicariously of those who are qualified in nearby, like her manjaris, her sakis, others. You understand? And when it enters their heart, asana janatarit valodanam, it churns the heart with the same mood. You understand? So these are the features of Anurag. Also, Anurag is Saranubhuta Kuryoyam Navanava Priyam. It makes the love ever new. For we call Krishna Nava Yovanam. He's an ever fresh youth. How does he appear Nava Yovan? And always new? By the feature of Anurag. The love of the gopis produces that every time they see Krishna, he appears more beautiful. Even sometimes Radhika will see Krishna, and one pastime is there that Radhika, she saw Krishna once. This is before the actual meeting so much. This is in the stage of Purvarag. While she was sitting with some friends, her Saki Chitra bought a painting of Krishna. And she looked at the painting and she was like, and then she heard Krishna's flute playing from a distance. And then she did just put her hands on her head and she was shaking her head. So Lalita said, "Oh girl, what is the matter with you?" She said, "I've become completely unchaste today because I've fallen in love with 3 different people." So Lalita was saying, "What do you mean?" She said, "I saw the son of Nanda Maharaj today and my heart completely was overtaken. And then Chitra showed me a picture and I immediately fell in love with that person. Then hearing the flute of whoever's playing that flute has captured my heart and I'm falling in love with them." Lalita said, "Oh, silly girl, it's the same person." You understand? So like this, the bewilderment of love and the influence of Anurag makes each experience with Krishna appear very, very new. You understand? This Anurag I mentioned turns into Mahabhav. The Mahabhav is Rud, Adi Rud, and then Mohan, Modan, Madan. I'm not explaining more, just gets more detail, but we'll go so long if I try to explain everything. So now he's saying, Anandam Bhuri Vadanam Pratipadam Purna Amrita Swadanam. If one takes in the chanting of the holy name, they will be able to taste, especially when they come to Bhav and enter into praying, they will get the results of tasting these gradual steps in praying in elevated increments all the way up to the service of the love of Srimati Radharani. So then he says, Savatma Snapanam. Savatma Snapanam means, therefore, immerse your entire being. Don't hold anything back. Become completely surrendered to. Immerse your entire being. In what? Param, the most superior thing. Vijayate. Here the word jai means to have victory. Visesh jayate, because the prefix here V means visesh, speciality. In that particular mood of love that you have towards Krishna, become completely immersed in that form of love while you do Sri Krishna. Sri Krishna means the kirtan of Radha and Krishna. Hare Krishna means Radha and Krishna. Sri means Radha, Krishna means Krishna. Sri Krishna Sankirtanam. The word Sankirtan here means Savot Bhavena Kirtan. Savot Bhavena Kirtan. So what does it mean? Sarva Bhav. It means with all of the moods of praying, one should then do kirti, means glorification of their object of worship, Sri Krishna, with their particular mood. You understand? So this is the explanation of the first verse of Shikshashtakam of Mahaprabhu, written as a Bhajan instruction to those who have aspiration to follow the path of especially Raganuga Bhakti to serve Radha and Krishna. So before we go on, I want to open to see if there's any questions or comments. Either raise your hand or you can just unmute and begin speaking.
Haribo.
Haribo, Sahaji.
Did you just say Savo Bhavina Kirtan?
Yeah.
Okay. And so
That
explain
means,
that again.
yeah, that means Sarva Bhav. Sarva Bhav means with all moods. So every rasa has its moods. Mm-hmm. So with those moods, because there should be some Sambandha Gyan here, it means doing kirtan in Sambandha Gyan with that mood. So he's glorifying Harinam in general related to all the different moods. So he's saying Savatma Snapanam, whatever mood you have, become bathed in the Sambandha of that mood.
Savatma Snapanam is Sava Bhavina Kirtan.
Yeah.
Thank you. Haribo.
Dandavats, Mukunda.
Dandavats, Bhumi.
When you cleaned out that garage, did you have any Shikshashtakam books?
I have not even looked at what books I have there yet. I did see some of Param Gurudev's biographies. And I think some Jaiva Dharma is just like the first editions, but I'll look in there more carefully. It's all cleaned out now so I can see clearly.
Because everyone on the class, if they don't have it, they need to get that book.
Yes. You got to think, this was written by the hand of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, was his only writing. So there's some conjecture that he wrote another commentary on Bhagavad Gita, but in order to give glory to those who are coming in the line who wrote commentaries already, he threw it away. Or was it commentary in Bhagavatam? One or two. But anyway, there's no vetting of that.
Yeah, but everything that you're speaking is in Gurudev's copy of
Shikshashtakam.
Shikshashtakam.
Yeah, exactly. With the commentary of Bhaktivinoda Thakur and Gurudev.
If devotees on the line don't have it, they should get it. And then that will help them, because I'm going along with you as you're speaking, and I'm turning the pages and I'm seeing it.
Oh, good. Good. Of course, over the course of years from giving the kata, I'm just speaking it from the remembrance of what Gurudev and our other acharyas have written on it. Understand? Now, I'm going to give one description, and before we end for today, because I've been a little under the weather, so I want to take a little time to do some recuperation. But I do want to give one explanation a little bit of the Rasic meaning also here. Mahaprabhu, being absorbed in the mood of Srimati Radharani, is also praying. Chaito dharpana majanam. When Krishna used to take his cows out, especially during the monsoon season, sometimes to take shelter from the rain, Krishna would go to Govardhan and enter into the caves of Govardhan. Srila Gurudev used to say that the gopis, they used to follow Krishna's movements by bhav netra. Netra means seeing or eyes. Bhav, by the mood of their inner separation from him. I explained last week, there are 4 kinds of separation, 4 kinds of meeting, right? I'll just do it quickly. Purvarag means the feeling of separation prior to meeting the beloved, even though you've heard about the glories of the beloved and you have attraction. But prior to official meeting, there's called Purvarag. When you meet with that person after Purvarag, it is called Sankship Sambho, right? Means it's like meeting is brief. Brief meaning it's like there's not a real in-depth meeting, right? Then there's man, right? Which is one form of separation. When that takes place, then meeting after man is called Sankirna Sambho. It means meeting that is contracted by the atmosphere that spawn the man. Man means like when Radhika enters into a mood of being sulky, right? It could have a cause, it could not have a cause. I already explained in the verse earlier. But for Krishna to break that man and they come back together, the atmosphere is still permeated a little bit by the incident itself. I'll give a quick example. Sometimes Krishna wants to glorify the beauty of Radhika. So Krishna may say, you have eyes that are like the stars. And when you smile, your teeth are like Chandravali. So the word Chandravali means Chandra Avali. So it means the rays of the moon. But when Radhika hears the word Chandravali, she thinks of it as her rival, Chandravali. This is called Gotra Skalana. Just like you don't want to be on the wrong end of dating someone and you call them by the name of your ex, right? So Radhika, under those circumstances, has a reason, then she'll become angry. And she will tell Krishna, oh, then you really enjoy the beauty of Chandravali. You can go in that direction. If you walk so many this, that, you'll run into your Chandravali. But you don't need to talk to me. Then Radhika will go someplace and become very sulky, etc., etc. So then Krishna will have to do very many things to break the man of Radhika in order to amend for that. Even though he did not mean to call Chandravali, but this is some example how man can take place. So even when they meet again after that, Krishna has to try to break the man. So in that atmosphere while he's trying to break the man, it's called Sankirna Sambho, contracted meeting. Just like Krishna will beg sometime, Smara Galana Kandanam, Mama Sirasi Mandanam, Dehi Pada Palavam Udharam, Priye Charusile, Manchamaye Manam Anidanam. So in Gita Govinda, Jayadev Goswami is written, when Krishna once was trying to break the man of Radhika, he sang such a beautiful phrase. Listen, oh Radhika, I'm burning in separation from you. will you please show me some favor just by showing me a little bit of your smile from the corners of your mouth? 2, alleviate me of my suffering. Please, if necessary, can you take your 2 lotus feet and you can place them on my head? Then he tells him, oh, Radhika, please give up your man and you forgive me. If necessary, because man is such a heavy burden, give me that burden. I won't tell whole Leela, but Gurudev once told a pastime, when Radhika was appealed to by Krishna with this kind of mood, Radhika had come to her door and she was holding rice, dal, some sabjis, everything, because she had just finished cooking, and Krishna was making this plea, right? Of course, the real image of this is in one painting by Shamarani Didi, where she has Radha and Krishna in the kunj sitting next to each other. It's called Seva Kunj painting. That painting is related to that verse. You understand? And Radhika's mood at that time is called Kila Kinchit Bhav. Anyway, I'll get off track if I try to go through all these things. But in the Leela, she comes to her door, Gurudev told, and Krishna's pleading like this. And he says, Manchimai manam iranam. Make a gift of your man to me. So Radhika says, okay, very well. So then she takes the rice and dal and everything and pours it on Krishna's head. Understand? So Krishna then smiles, causing Radhika to smile, but her man is now broken. Understand? Next is pravas. So what we're talking about now, in the esoteric meaning of this verse, is that when Krishna will go to take the cows out, it is a separation called pravas. But the gopis, by their inner mood called bhav netra, they follow Krishna's progress. But sometimes when he takes shelter of a huge tree or one of the caves of Govardhan, in their heart while they're meditating, they lose sight of him. When they lose sight of him, bhava maha davagni, the great fire of their mood of separation comes. So Mahaprabhu was also talking about this in relation to his mood as Radhika. Then he says, but nivapanam, that mood is extinguished. Shreya kairava chandrika vitaranam vijavadu jivanam. That mood is extinguished when the good fortune of the lotus of our praying again opens, and vadu jivanam, we are united again, which is the life of that praying. Sambhog is the real life of the praying, not separation. But separation nourishes meeting. So he's telling now, listen, Radhika saying, when my heart again blossoms due to the moon rays of praying, at that time, nirvapanam happens, that separation distress is completely eradicated, and vitaranam, the fullness of my blossoming in love takes place, vidya vadu jivanam. So here vidya and vadu mean Krishna and Radhika. Why? Because Krishna is the predominating deity of Samvit Shakti. And Radhika is the predominating deity of Ladini Shakti. Jivanam, the life of Samvit and Ladini, is when they have Sambhog and they meet together. And then Radhika says, I find that the ocean of our love is ever expanding. This is Anurag. I explained it earlier. Understand? All the way up to her mother and Bhav. So this is the meaning of Ananda Buddhi Vadanam, Puna Amrita Swadanam. Then Sava Atma Snapanam. Radhika saying she's completely bathed. This is a deep element. She's fully taken shelter in Madan Bhav, her mood. She fully takes shelter of separation to cause meeting. I've explained this before. Ruda bhavakyoyam sambhoga vipralambika. When Radhika's mood of separation, it's called Mohan Bhav, because it becomes very extreme, it has so much power that even when Krishna is in Mathura and Dwarka, it causes their meeting to take place. You understand? I've explained this before, so I won't go back and reiterate it on a future class, or if somebody has a question about it, I'll go into detail. So she's saying, Savatma Snapanam, having fully surrendered to my love, this Madan Bhav, Param Vijayate Shri Krishna Sankirtanam, by simply remembering your name, which is not different from you, I'm having Sambhog. So this is an example of the esoteric meaning coming from the mood of Mahaprabhu when he was at Uddhav Kyari. You understand? and they would take shelter of talking one to another about Krishna, and this way taking shelter of his name and his glories, their separation mood was being pacified, and Krishna would manifest his own presence there. Understand? So very deep things are there in Shikshashtakam. I think we will end here, but we'll open up for questions or comments.